The girlies, specifically the TikTok girlies, are saying Tate McCrae is the next Britney Spears, and immediately no. Like, sorry to burst your bubble, but immediately no. In fact, we are actually in an era of what I personally believe to be the last greats. There will never be another Britney Spears. And not only that, there will never be another Beyonce or Michael Jackson, simply because the conditions no longer exist to create these artists, legends, and icons. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we're talking about this conversation that pops up every time we have a new flash in the pan artist. And this is no shade to Tate McCrae or any artist that is emerging that people are saying, oh, this is going to be the next X, Y, and Z, insert icon, insert legend here. This is not to throw shade on them. It's just to state that we are in the era of the last greats. Like, I literally believe we are living through the last great artists of our generation, and not just of our generation, but the last great artists of all time, simply because the conditions that created these legends and icons no longer exist. And I hate when people compare artists, especially female artists, so I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to talk about the factors which I believe have created these huge legends that we regard so highly in the music industry. First and foremost, the biggest thing that I think we saw that played the biggest role in these artists and these legends that just no longer exist today or is not as important today when it comes to newer artists and budding artists is artist development. There is a lack of artist development. And when I say that, I mean developing talent from start to finish. Like, think about the Motown system of artistry, years of training from a very young age, the Mickey Mouse Club. Artists were developed. There were entire machines behind them. When you think about Britney Spears and Michael Jackson specifically, they have been in this game since they were children, elementary school age children, and they were doing it and have been doing it from a very young age at a very professional level. Britney Spears has been in dance lessons since she was 3 years old. Michael Jackson joined his brothers in the Jackson 5. Beyonce has been performing since she was 9 years old. There is a machine behind all of these legends, behind a lot of these huge artists and icons we see nowadays. There is a machine behind them. And if not a machine in terms of a label record, there are their parents funding them. They are going to dance camps. They are going to artist workshops and network. They're going to vocal coaching. They are training from a very young age. This is not just a hobby for them. They regard it as a profession and treat it as such from a very young age. Artists nowadays have to develop themselves to get the attention of labels, and there has to be a uniqueness within you that makes you stand out before the label is even going to reach out to you. On the one hand, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, simply because a lot of the time, especially back in the old days of the music industry, you could have a talent, but if you didn't have that machine behind you, you weren't going to get discovered. Nowadays, we have social media, we have YouTube, we have TikTok. Doechii, she is the general masses and the general public are now discovering Doechii, but she's been grinding for 10 years on YouTube. She developed herself, and that's the case for so many artists we see nowadays. Chapel Rowan, for example, another darling who has just popped up on the scene seemingly in 2022, 2023, but she has been grinding for a very long time. So there is an avenue now that exists that gets people exposure and opportunities they likely otherwise wouldn't have had without social media. However, that should not be taking the place of artist development, and we are just not seeing that level of artist development nowadays. There's that uniqueness that is missing that makes it so a lot of artists that are emerging nowadays are standing out, and not just standing out, but actually lasting a longer time. We see so many popcorn artists that are having an amazing year or an amazing 2 years or maybe even 3 years. They pop up seemingly out of nowhere. Ice Spice, for example, people were saying she was an industry plant. I don't think she was an industry plant. I know that she had some connections through her label and her boyfriend, Riot, whose father is a giant in the music industry and was able to get her some opportunities. I don't think that necessarily makes her a plant. I just think she's like really well connected. But for the most part, when these artists pop up, when these flash in the pan artists pop up, they have a good few seasons and then they go away. Like there's that star power, that lasting star power that's missing. And I'm going to talk about that later in the video. Because of social media is a great way to get discovered, you know, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, etc. But that kind of oversaturates the market. And so the best way to get attention and to stand out in an oversaturated market is through your individuality, but also virality. Ice Spice cracked this code and did so in a very interesting way, in a very unique way that made her stand out. You know, she had that bright orange shake and go wig. And a lot of people were trying to say that was her natural hair. If it is her natural hair, again, I'm not trying to throw shade on her, but I legit thought that that was a shake and go wig. But anyways, that shake and go, that orange wig gave her that signature look, and combined with her viral song, that launched her into the industry. You know, Doechii, like I said, Doechii and Chappell Rowan, they aren't necessarily new artists. They've been grinding for years, but their artistry is very unique, which is what makes them stand out in this era of popcorn artists. And not only do they have a unique look along with a very unique sound, because I don't think they sound like any of their peers. Like, to me, I'm just, for the purposes of this video and to make my point, I'm just going to continuously use Doechii and Chappell Rowan because I think that they are ahead of their class, simply because they have cracked this code of combining talent with a unique look and a unique sound, and that is what is missing nowadays. And I think out of their entire class of these new artists that are emerging, I think both of them have the best chance of standing out and lasting the test of time and getting to that icon, that legend status. But I don't really see it for anyone else right now. And it is because there's nothing that they're doing that's pushing the envelope. There's nothing that they're doing is pushing the needle that is getting them to that accolade of legend, getting them to that accolade of, you know, icon. But anyways, you know, Chappell Rowan and Doechii, they have a unique look. They have a unique sound. They're very talented. And I'm genuinely excited to see whether they'll stand the test of time, which is another contributing factor as to why we will never have another Britney Spears, Beyonce, or Michael Jackson. You know, those artists have, those three artists right there, especially when it comes to pop music. Those three artists have what many lack, which is longevity. The pop music market is so interesting to watch. It is one of the few genres that, in order to be regarded as a great, whether you can stand the test of time and stay relevant, is by staying on top and appealing across generations. And that appeal across generations and time is a huge factor. You know, like I said, Britney Spears has been performing for decades despite being locked in her conservatorship. She was still out there performing. You know, Michael Jackson's career spanned 4 decades before it ended in, you know, a fair amount of disgrace and controversy. And Beyonce, again, has been making music for 2 decades, has been performing for 2 decades. Their music is mostly radio friendly, whether it's your cup of tea or not, whether you like their music or not. It is very radio friendly, and it has common elements that everybody can relate to, you know, universal elements, either in terms of danceability or themes such as love, friendship, joy, pain, family, personal struggles, triumph, etc. You know, I know for me, I wasn't the biggest Beyonce fan. I listened to her music, but I wasn't like, yes, I need this in my life. You know, I enjoyed Beyonce as a casual listener. It wasn't until Lemonade that I was like, oh my God, I get it. And it was because the things that she was singing about and the stories she told, it was something that just like really touched me, you know, those elements, and seeing her so raw and just so much talent and depth. And it was just such a cohesive body of work, and it showed us a different it showed us a different side of Beyonce. And I think that everybody really listened to that album, and I think that that album was what cemented her as a legend. What kind of frustrates me about that line of thinking is I think that sometimes we really don't take Black artists as serious artists until they show us this level of vulnerability or pain. And then it's like, oh, well, we could relate to you now that you put your dirty laundry out there. I even have to hold my own hand and interrogate myself why it took me so long to connect with Beyonce. And it wasn't until Lemonade that I got there. But really, I think it was because at that time, I like my musical taste has started to change, and I was looking for more depth in the sea of what I felt was the time that the industry started to shift around 2016, 2017, and you start to see a lot of just I don't know. How do I put this? How do I put this? Music that really lacked any level of depth. And when I'm also thinking about it, 2016 was the year I got married. Like, I feel like it was a really big transitionary time in my life. And so my thoughts, how I felt about things, how I regarded things changed. My outlook on life changed. And so I don't think it was because Beyonce was bearing her soul and sharing her trauma, which is why I connected to the album. I just think my life was shifting in a way that I was, I got married and I'm starting to think about family and my own personal struggles, because I, like, 10 years later, I still have never sat down and looked at my wedding photos, because that's another story for another day. But anyways, all of this to say, there are common elements in the music of, Beyonce and Britney Spears and Michael Jackson, these themes that you see emerge in music that spans generations. And their music doesn't only just center on these themes of friendship and joy and pain, family, personal struggles, loss, triumph, etc. It's also very danceable music. And that's something that I think is very lacking in music nowadays. Not only are just the subject matter of the music, it's lacking in anything really. It's just pop music. It's just music for the club. It's like fight music. It's sexy music. It's music that makes you want to pop bottles. There's a lot of depth that is lacking when it comes to a lot of mainstream music, a lot of pop music. And you also really can't dance to it. It's not danceable music. And when you think about songs that span time and generations, I want you to think about weddings, for example. There are just certain songs you put on at weddings and everybody's on the dance floor cutting a rug, shout. Michael Jackson, so many Michael Jackson songs you just put on and you dance and you cut a rug. Living on a Prayer, closing time, Before I Let Go. There are certain songs that you can put on in certain functions, and everybody, regardless of the generational group you belong to, everybody's gonna get up and dance. You're gonna move, it's gonna connect. Think about this the next time you go to a wedding, or think about the most recent wedding or a gathering that had a lot of people across different generations. Something you're gonna notice is that when the music comes on, the music that connects with people is music you can dance to, music that makes you feel something. And a lot of music nowadays is just really lacking in this. Not only that, the songs are too short and the music is not meant for the radio, but instead the music is made for TikTok and social media. People don't even really listen to the radio anymore like that. So people aren't even hearing the same songs. I remember a time where even if you didn't listen to music of that genre, you still heard the music because it was everywhere. It was kind of evergreen music, specifically pop music. It was evergreen. So you're hearing it in the grocery store, you're hearing it on commercials, or you're just hearing it casually in passing. We don't really hear music like that anymore, because the way we listen to music, the way we consume, we don't even really listen to music anymore. We more so consume music. And so the way we listen to music is changed. In part, what was so unifying about Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, what was so unifying about that song and why it was everywhere is because it was everywhere. Think about the last time a song captivated the nation like that. Even if you don't like rap music, even if you don't like Kendrick Lamar, you heard Not Like Us. It was a song that was everywhere. People aren't making music for enjoyment like that anymore. People aren't making music for a group experience. It doesn't move you. It's not exciting to listen to. It feels like people aren't making music for enjoyment or listening to music for enjoyment, but rather making music in order for it to go viral. And you hear that even in the quality of the music that is being put out. Like, when I listen to music nowadays, it's these little 2-minute sound bites, and I'm like, what is this? Like, it's very annoying to listen to a lot of music nowadays because it's just not good, specifically pop music. And I want to make that distinction very clear when I'm talking about pop music, popular music, music you're hearing in the radio, out and about, probably in the club, in the bar, like pop music, because rap is kind of falling off, which is very interesting to see. And I think that there are several factors at play in that regard. And I'll probably talk about that in another music video. If you haven't figured out by now, I really, really, really enjoy music history. I love pop culture. So drop that in the comments and let me know if you want more of these pop culture music analysis. But anyways, moving on, Tate McCrae being lauded as the next Britney Spears is very interesting to me because yes, she may be able to dance very well. She's an extremely talented dancer. Like, go look up that girl's record. You know that girl from the music videos, Maddie Ziegler. She was on Dance Moms. Like, she was like America's little dancing doll. That girl was everywhere in the mid 2000s. You know, Tate McCrae beat her in a dance competition. Tate McCrae is a very talented dancer. People regard her as a triple threat. And I don't know if people don't know what that word means or what that phrase means, or maybe we're using it differently, because my understanding of a triple threat is someone who can sing, dance, and act, but people are calling her a triple threat. And it's because she can sing, song, write, and dance. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a triple threat now in 2025. But anyways, while Tate McCrae may be able to dance very well, and if you know anything about Britney Spears is an amazing, world-renowned, just a highly regarded performer and dancer. So I guess that is the only thing that I think people are comparing them when it comes to their dances, because they're not really, they're not the strongest singers. Britney Spears was never known for her singing, but when it comes to Tate McCrae being lauded as the next Britney Spears, it is interesting to me because while she may be able to dance very well, she lacks a sound. She lacks a unique identifier. Her music is very forgettable and you really cannot dance to it. Like, there's that song she has, I will wear myself in integrity. Like, that song, I think that's probably my favorite song. First, listen, I can't sing very well, okay? Y'all don't drag me. I never said I could sing very well. But anyways, it's a cute song. It's a bop, but I'm not saying it's bad music per se. You can't really dance to it though. It's forgettable and it's not just icon level. And to call her the next Britney Spears, in my personal opinion, it's a stretch considering she just got here 7 minutes ago. We know nothing about her. She hasn't been developed as an artist and presented to the public, which again goes back to that lack of artist development. Anything we know or would want to know or find out about her nowadays, it's likely going to come from social media, which brings me back to another reason why we will and can never have another Britney, Beyonce, or Michael, because the stars of today are way too exposed. I remember the way that we used to find out things about artists that we loved was either in J14 magazine interviews. Like, listen, if you don't know J14 magazine, that was the hottest magazine back in the day, okay? Like, I would read those things like in the grocery store aisle because my parents would not pay for them. So I would go grocery shopping with my parents just so I could read J14, or my friends' parents. They would buy them like everything. So I would go to their house and I would like read it. But anyways, if we were finding out things about artists, we were finding it out in like an MTV special or behind the music or the making of the video. Like, y'all remember the making of the videos, right? When they were making the music videos, then MTV, there was an entirely different program, the process of making the video. Like, I freaking love that show. Or, we were finding out things about artists that way, on news, their interviews on the nightly news, anything that artists wanted to know, we were finding out through their team. With the stars of today, though, are way too exposed. On social media, you can hop on social media and they will just give you everything and anything. Like, they are just, it's too much. It's too much. And some people might find it relatable. I don't find it relatable at all. Like, I think we should know less about one another, but I also understand my bias may come from the fact that I am just an older millennial. And so I remember a time before social media. I remember that there were things that you didn't put on social media, and that very much guides how I use social media to this day. And the fact that people use it in a way that I find destructive and crazy is just wild to me. It's just wild to me. But anyways, there used to be an enigma and mystery about celebrities and icons. They were extremely media trained, like very well media trained, and we only knew what their team or they wanted us to know. There was a poise about them, that inaccessibility, that mysteriousness, that mystique, that made them that much more, even more iconic. Nowadays, however, you can hop on social media and see all parts of these celebrities, their morning routines, their days in the life, their crash outs. And I just, I don't want to see it. You know who nowadays I feel like is an artist that has a really amazing amount of media training that I personally appreciate? I think Tyla has an amazing amount of media training. And I think that in part is why people, say she is an industry plant to some degree, because her image is so polished. But I personally appreciate that. And you could tell that her team is developing her and training her. It, as it pertains to the media, they're doing it very well. Like, I love that. Chappell Rowan, she needs a lot more media training, because she be crashing out in a way that I'm just like, girl, somebody take this girl's phone. But anyways, while some people may appreciate that relatability and proximity, I personally think that level of accessibility kind of takes away from their mystique and overall that icon status, that legend status. Like, we do not have that much access to Beyonce. And I think that mystique around her, what keeps her at this icon status, the celebrity of celebrities, because she isn't out there like that. She has an image and she is protecting it very well. And I just wish that more younger artists, more budding artists would go back to that level of privacy or better media training and being smart about what they're posting on social media. And I think in part that will help them develop that mystique and kind of put them on that icon status, leave it in the music. Like Ariana Grande, for example, that whole cheating scandal. I love that she never spoke about it. She is like one of those last icons that we have where she does not address certain things. She puts it all in her music. And I freaking love that. I think that is so smart. But anyways, this accessibility, this hopping on social media, this lack of media training, these public crash outs, it can also kill their careers, or at the very least negatively impact it, with these celebrities' worst moments being caught in 4K in real time for all to see. And I think in part what comes with that, and what I talked about with Chappell Rowan, or what I think about Chappell Rowan, I think in part it comes to this pressure nowadays for stars to, know all and be mouthpieces for everything that's going on in the world, speaking on every single political issue for better or for worse. And I've done videos about this in the past where I think it is very weird as a society where we've developed this parasocial relationship, or taking our cues from celebrities and influencers and content creators and, public figures in the celebrity space, that we are taking cues from them on how we should be voting or how we feel about certain issues going on in the world. And I really don't think it is their place to speak about certain things. And speaking about these things, if you're not coming if you're not coming at it from a place of being well informed and educated, it not only makes you look a certain way, but it can also negatively impact your career. And so personally, I don't personally want to hear from any celebrity when it comes to certain issues. And I think we need to go back to that. And we probably would if artists were better media trained, if they had teams that were developing them as artists. In a way, it's kind of funny to think about, in a world and in a time when we are all overexposed and we are all on social media. Well, not all of us, the vast majority of us, in a time where the vast majority of us are on social media, and this is where we're finding artists and listening to music. I know it sounds counterproductive to say that celebrities and artists are overexposed, which takes away from their just being icons and legends. But I think there's a very delicate balance. And I think a lot more artists, especially newer artists, need to follow Beyonce's route of being an artist on social media, but being a lot smarter about what you are posting. And I think a person who is doing this very well is Tyla. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but the way we consume, appreciate, and listen to music has changed a lot. Music was meant to be enjoyed, and artists used to make entire cohesive projects. I remember when albums dropped, like I remember buying Britney Spears CDs as a teenager, as a teenager, and, just opening up the CD and pulling out that insert, that book on the side, and learning the lyrics and listening to it over and over again. There would be whole listening parties. I would listen with my friends and we would read the CD insert together and like listen to all the lyrics. And you just really enjoy the music. It was like an immersive experience. But nowadays, it's like music is made for algorithms and consumption. I feel a lot of the music that is mainstream, specifically pop music, is made with, and even rap to a certain degree, but this video is about pop music, so we're going to keep it exclusively to pop music. I feel that a lot of the music that is mainstream, pop music nowadays is made with social media in mind. These quick little 2-minute bops, if we're lucky to even get 2-minute songs nowadays, but they're made so people can put it on TikTok and come up with a dance and make the song go viral. I was reading Tate Mcrae's Spotify bio, and something that they put in there was how many streams she had. And I thought that was weird because I'm like, why does this matter? Like, it's just so crazy to me as someone who has watched the music industry change, the fact that streaming numbers matter more than like accolades or what they're doing or how they're playing around with this sound or the songs that they're releasing. I don't care about her streams, but that is what people care about nowadays when they are creating music. And it's very clear when you listen to the quality of the music, it's all about quantity. It's not about quality. Like, a lot of the pop music nowadays is trash. It's annoying to listen to. It's very like just harsh on the ears. The music is not mixed well. It's just kind of annoying, honestly, and uninspired. It fades from your memory and falls off the charts after a week or two. Artists are very rarely making cohesive projects from start to finish. The visuals are lacking, and the music is honestly clearly made for quick hits to stay relevant, not for any level of enjoyment. So like I said, it's clear that people are seeking quantity. It's clear that people are seeking virality and social media moments when they're releasing this music. Now, am I expecting a 3-part Renaissance project or life-changing, impactful music from Tate Mcrae? No, I'm not, especially not at this point in her career. But can we get an album that tells a story? What happened to interludes? Can we get an interlude? Can we listen? I know I'm probably asking for a lot at this moment, but can we get a song? Can we get songs that are longer than 3 minutes? What are we talking about? Banks, for example. I love Banks. She just dropped her album Off With Her Head. And just like in Cowboy Carter, the last song on Off of Her Head, it blends seamlessly into Guillotine, which is the first song on the album. And, it kind of reminded me of Cowboy Carter, the last song, Amen, it blends so seamlessly into American Requiem. And even when you listen to Renaissance Act 1, so many of Beyonce songs, like, it was a project, it was a listening experience, it was sonically just beautiful. It sounded so good to listen to and pulled you right in. So even if it wasn't your cup of tea, you can appreciate the artistry and the work and the craft that was put into the album. I say that with Renaissance. I said Renaissance Act 1, Cowboy Carter, these were projects, they were listening experiences. Banks, Off With Her Head, loved the album. And in all honesty, my only criticism with that album, after waiting a few years for her to drop this album, my only criticism was that at 12 songs long, it was only 35 minutes long. And I feel like that's been the case with every single album I've listened to over the past 10 years. And it's annoying. Like, give us the music. Like Ira Starr's album, loved her album. The year I turned 21, I played that back to back to back. Love that album. Tyla's album, it was so good. Even Thames' album, such good albums, but the song, well, Thames is a little bit better. I won't put her in this category, but Ira Starr and Tyla and Banks, the albums were just too short. Why are songs so short nowadays? Maybe studio time is more expensive nowadays. I don't know. Y'all let me know. I'm not in the music industry. But anyways, along with the lack of media training, artist development, longevity, and just quality of the music, another reason why there will never be another Britney Spears, another Beyonce, or another Michael Jackson It's simply because we no longer reward creativity as a society. And this is in part due to the gradification of everything. You see it in so many aspects of life. Even the way we decorate nowadays, the way homes are built, everything freaking looks the same. Like, even on social media, you see this a lot. There is just this gradification of everything going on. A new aesthetic or trend for everyone to chase pops up, every 3 to 4 business days, but it all looks the same. There is no variety. And not just does everything look the same, everything sounds the same. I was like thinking about this the other day and I was like, I know it just can't be me. I know it just can't be me. So I got to Google, like started working my little fingers. I came across an article, like several articles from all the way back in 2018, 2019 that were saying that social media and globalization, it is eroding the regional accent. And if you think about the influencer voice, for example, that affected way of speaking, it seems like all influencers speak like, the pitch, the tone, the exaggeration or the accent on certain words, etc. If you ever catch yourself feeling like everyone sounds the same, it's not in your head. It's something that is legit happening. There's this flattening of culture, there's this flattening of diversity, there's this just lack of any type of seasoning or diversity of expression, creativity. And this is in part, however, why Doechii and Chappell Rowan stand out, because they have a distinct look and a very distinct sound. They're making what some would inarguably say fits into the genres that they're in, the pop genre and hip hop genre. However, they're constantly playing around with different sounds. There's diversity in not just their music themes, but they blend genres really well. Like, for example, I really loved seeing Doechii collaborate with Banks on her album. And Chappell Rowan, she consistently blends indie music and themes into her music, as well as Doechii blending alternative themes. So they are so unique. And I'm really excited to see where they go, because out of all of the new girlies, out of all of the new artists that are emerging, I think that obviously they're just getting started. They have to work their way up to legend status and icon status. But if anyone I see standing the test of time based on what they have created and done so far, I absolutely see it being them. And if anything, I think the latter, how unique your sound is and your image is, as well as putting out good quality music over quantity, that gives you a better chance of being considered not the next anything or anyone, but icons in your own right. Because alongside with longevity, that cements an artist as well as their music withstanding the test of time. It is also based on how you can influence and change the industries that you're in, either through how the artist expresses themselves in their music or their image, but their overall contributions to the music industry. So think about Lauryn Hill, for example. Lauryn Hill gave us one solid album. And over time, she has continued to put out compilation albums, but those compilation albums, they include maybe 1 or 2 new songs, but they also include the same song. So she's not giving us a lot of super new music, but she is regarded as a legend and a cultural icon because of her ability to seamlessly blend and move through genres, her lyrical depth, her artistry, the poetry in her music, and also breaking barriers for female rappers. Britney Spears, while not the strongest vocalist, she single-handedly changed the face of the pop music industry by reviving the industry in the late 90s and early 2000s, and also through her energetic performances, as well as her strong choreography and just her iconic looks. Beyonce has raised the bar through her perfection and attention to detail, as well as her concerts and projects that are just true works of art from start to finish. If you have never been to a Beyonce concert, please go and get your life. Like you will leave there and you'll be like sweating and you're like, am I crying or is this sweat? I don't know. Maybe it's both, but just, oh my goodness, it is just amazing. And then Michael Jackson, come on, Michael Jackson. This man laid the groundwork for all of this. This man is the king of pop and inarguably the greatest entertainer of all time. Period. Point blank. No questions asked. Not up for debate. Beyonce, Britney Spears, Michael Jackson, they will never be replaced or duplicated. And honestly, they shouldn't be. We need to appreciate people for what they are as individuals, as artists. And I also strongly feel that saying someone is the next X, Y, and Z diminishes who they are as artists in the moment and also puts way too much pressure on them at the start of their careers. Like when we say you're the next X, Y, and Z, I think sometimes we're trying to compliment the person, and most of us mean it as a compliment. Most of us mean well. However, I think that's really diminishing and dismissive to the artist and what they're doing and their own sense of individuality and puts way too much pressure on them. And I noticed that when people do it when it comes to the music industry, we typically do this to women. Like when Tyla came out and people were saying she's the next Rihanna, and it's like, no, there will never be another Rihanna because Rihanna is Rihanna and Tyla is Tyla. People cannot compete where they don't compare, and it's time to stop the comparisons. Like, enough, enough, enough. If we are going to get to comparing, at least give these artists time to prove themselves. Tate Mcrae is not the next Britney Spears. She is Tate Mcrae. But if she wants to even be considered, baby girl has got a very, very, very long way to go and a very, very, very steep hill to climb. So let her cook. Let her cook. Enjoy her music for what it is. Put on a pair of heels. Try to do that little dance. Don't hurt yourself. Let her cook. Drop down into the comments and let me know your thoughts. What artist do you think right now that's out that's going to stand the test of time and reach icon to legend status? Let me know. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. What are you waiting for if you haven't subscribed yet? Let me know if you want more of these pop culture music analysis and breakdowns. And until next time, peace out.